Good evening and welcome and thank you for joining us. Tonight I'm going to talk about the nature and nurture of a career in structural engineering. And I think one of the things I'd like to start off with is this simple question: what makes a good structural engineer? And I'm sure that between us, particularly with the people we have in this room, we'd spend many an hour debating the question. However, I would suggest it could be summarised as the ability to fully understand a structural problem or challenge and then find a safe, buildable solution to overcome the challenge, whilst at the same time maintaining an economic use of the Earth's finite resources. So, in summary, however complex the problem may be, good structural engineers often find clean, simple, elegant solutions. We make the complex simple. So, something that would potentially take less time to define would be the route to becoming a structural engineer. This is, of course, if you look at the majority route and what we'd call the ordinary or the standard route. So, what do? You achieve an accredited civil and structural engineering degree. You then join an engineering firm where you gain real-world project experience and the mentorship of more senior engineers. You then embark, after a few years, into the process of professional registration with a professional review interview and then the final, examination. So, what about the minority routes? Surely these are no less important. As we look to the future and reflect upon what makes a good structural engineer, then it is almost certain that in addition to the traditional skills, there will be a changing scope in what structural engineers do and are expected to know. There will also be an increase in the diversity of backgrounds from which engineers come from. Therefore, the cohort of engineers coming through the minority routes will certainly have potential to increase. No time to lose. So the thrust of my inaugural address and the discussions and actions that I would like to see taking place in 2023 during my period as president is therefore about ensuring this institution is suitably positioned to support individuals, whatever their background and route, into structural engineering. Firstly, however, as is traditional for an incoming president, let me briefly share with you my own pathway into structural engineering and my own progression through this institution. As you will uncover, mine was not the standard pathway to professional registration. So, leaving school at 16, I had no idea what I wanted in life and no idea how to achieve it. I had a handful of decent examination passes, O-levels, and for anyone under 50, that's GCSEs. They included maths and physics. Now, the only way I actually managed to get my maths and physics was through the support of my father, who was an engineer, college lecturer, road accident investigator and technical author, and he frequently grounded me until he was confident that I could get decent grades in both subjects. As a 15-year-old, I resented this. However, I've been immensely grateful to him ever since. So, with no more interest in school, I left formal education and started an administrative job in local government, Norfolk County Council's Treasury Department. A decent trainee role where I was sponsored to attend college one day a week to study a BTEC ONC, Business Studies and Finance. During this period of my life, I met my future wife, Sharon, and soon realised that I had absolutely no interest whatsoever in working either in local government or in finance. So, disillusioned, I applied for a few different jobs that at least sounded interesting. One of these jobs was a trainee structural technician. Now, you have to take yourself back to those days when there wasn't Google. In fact, there wasn't the internet. I had no idea what a trainee structural technician was. I didn't know what it entailed beyond the wording of the advert. I applied and I was offered the job with a local structural engineering firm, Hale Allen Jones, based in Norwich in the east of England, and I never looked back. So I returned to part-time college at Norwich City College, but this time to study civil engineering, a BTEC ONC. I excelled in my studies and loved the job, picking up wonderful experience of small regional engineering projects while being mentored by some truly wonderful and generous structural engineers and detailers. I'll always be grateful to those individuals who not only took a risk on employing a disillusioned payroll clerk, and sometimes we just got to dwell on that, but also invested their time to teach me how to design and funded my academic education. So, with a thorough grounding in the more basic engineering duties of a structural technician, and now a holder of a civil engineering qualification, both a BTEC ONC and a BTEC HNC, I joined a national consultant and worked on various defence projects, both for the Royal Air Force and the United States Air Force. This added another level of experience to my portfolio and further helped me develop my skills and abilities. So, I completed my IPD, passed my AM exam, and became registered as an incorporated structural engineer. I was now qualified. At this point, I moved to another job with another national consultancy, and in doing so, picked up more experience designing and project managing large retail projects. As a 25-year-old incorporated structural engineer, I was running multi-million-pound projects with minimal supervision, albeit with the safety net of some excellent engineers above me. At this time, I joined the East Anglian Regional Group Committee. I was invited to join. I thought it was such an honour to be invited. What I didn't realise until afterwards was that the current committee member who shared our office was falling off the committee, and they wanted to carry on using the room and needed someone to make the teas and lock up. But we'll gloss over that bit. I joined that group and I've never left. The importance of being part of this physical network of structural engineers from different companies cannot be overemphasized. So I wanted to become a chartered structural engineer, but by now, married with a mortgage, university was not an option, and neither was there employer support for day release degree study. The institution's technical report route to chartered membership enabled me to compile a detailed portfolio to demonstrate my knowledge of structural engineering gained through experience. In putting the report together, I recognised that more concept and detailed design experience was required, and with that, I decided it was time for another career move. So, I returned to Hale Allen Jones, this time as an associate, and completed and submitted my technical report and passed both the PRI and sat and passed the Chartered Members exam. Finally, at the age of 35 and 10 years after becoming incorporated, I became a chartered structural engineer, earning the right to use the title IStructE. Next, I decided to join a steel contractor to run their structural engineering section. It was without doubt the most highly pressured, aggressive, strenuous, and strangely enjoyable time. I learned so much that you would never learn in an engineering consultancy. Exposure to numerous site issues, fabrication challenges, and commercial pressures. 5 years in this environment, and I was a skilled steelwork design specialist. I developed skills in effective communications, nurturing mutual respect and strong relationships with steel erectors, construction managers, quantity surveyors, principal contractors, and other consulting engineers that resulted in promotion into the commercial side of the business. Apparently, being an engineer, I was good at maths. Being good at maths means you're good at money. Therefore, I became Director of Commercial Operations. I had a moment of reflection. What am I? I felt I was no longer truly a structural engineer. Time for another challenge. So, with the support of my wife, I took I think the best way to put it is a financially challenging downward step and joined a well-established medium-sized structural and civil engineering practice as a principal engineer. During this time, I jumped at an opportunity to carry out some work for a global offshore oil and gas company who was struggling with resourcing structural engineering locally. The work was actually technically quite straightforward engineering, but the sector, context, terminology and priorities were all very new to me and the firm. I took on the work, built some excellent relationships, and uncovered more opportunities to nurture and build up an expanding workflow. So we were incredibly lucky. At all times, we were getting more exposure into more specialized areas with a client who was prepared to support and mentor me to get the resources they needed. I undertook my offshore survival training, including the infamous helicopter upside down in the pool. I upskilled all aspects of safety training. Safety was, and I think still is, much more at the front and centre of the offshore sector than the UK construction industry. And I prepared myself for working on offshore gas platforms. With a client mentoring, I was soon structurally surveying gas platforms in the southern North Sea, designing platform modifications and supporting various well intervention projects such as velocity strings, coil tubing, chemical injection and fracking. I was also mentoring and training my own team in the same aspects. So, parallel with the offshore work, I was also running UK-based commercial and retail building projects, including developing a specialisation in very large, super flat, suspended composite concrete floors. That's a mouthful, isn't it? Designed for high-performance robotic distribution. I had a foot in both camps and I loved it. My career progressed, gaining quick promotion to associate and then to director. 10 years after becoming a chartered structural engineer and 20 years after becoming incorporated, I submitted my application and became a fellow of this institution. So, then in 2019, along with my long-term friend and colleague Andrew Dye, we set up Subtenno in the strong belief that clear and open communication would be the main driver for enhancing efficient designs and high-quality service. We wanted to ensure that our company structure recognised equality and encouraged transparency for all of our staff, and that we would promote and encourage critical thinking, collaboration and continued professional development. We're so proud of our team here at Subtenno, and we're continuing to grow and strengthen our business. So, thank you for listening to me talk about my own pathway. Unique, of course, to me, but not unique in the sense that all those who are capable of becoming structural engineers might not do so via the traditional school and university route, or indeed with the initial vision that this is a profession they aspire to or possess the immediate base skills in their portfolio to achieve. So, if, as a profession, we have regret, and I've heard this many times, that many civil and structural engineering graduates eventually take up careers and move away from our sector, let's just consider how many potential members of the Institution of Structural Engineers we've not yet attracted into this profession. So, maybe those who at 14, 16 or 18 years of age didn't know what they wanted to do with their life and do not have accredited degrees in civil or structural engineering. Mine would not have been considered an uncommon route to professional registration back in the 1960s, 70s or even 80s. But whilst increasingly unusual today, there are clear signs that entry via other routes will be needed if we're to avoid skill shortages in the profession, to meet increasingly diverse pathways taken by individuals in coming to a decision for their future career, and in recognising the increasing cost of higher education that lends favour to a combination of part-time working and part-time education. We have excellent grades of membership that can be both a final destination and a step on a pathway. Technician and incorporated engineers play an important role in the structural engineering family. As a professional body, we are weakened if we do not enhance our support more broadly for all those who work in the structural engineering space. Additionally, we have much to offer those who support in related disciplines. And I'm keen to do more to promote our affiliate membership scheme for those who are not directly working as structural engineers. We should reach out to architects, civil engineers, STEM educators and contractors, whether as individuals or as businesses. Joining the affiliate scheme provides access to so many institution resources, and I'm going to take this as a personal challenge during my year as president. Within my own business, Subtenno, I firmly believe that being open and flexible in our approach to recruitment can be a source of competitive advantage. However, as a business, and more widely as an industry, we can do more. On this topic, we must ask ourselves some difficult questions, both as individuals and as a global engineering institution. Firstly, I would like to ask all members who influence recruitment within their organisations two questions. Where and how do you recruit engineering graduates? And what routes do you have within your engineering practice and firms for training and progression? The purpose of these questions is to consider if, as an industry, we tend to recruit our technical staff from the same talent pools, how's that diverse? Who are we overlooking and thereby missing out on? Are we passively discriminative? So let's consider some of the ways that we might enhance the institution's offering. Competence sits at the very heart of structural engineering and our institution. Both the incorporated and chartered engineer examinations are designed to set high bars that will enable candidates to test their competence and, once passed, along with the professional review interview, position our professional engineering grades at the highest level. In recent years, we've introduced the essential knowledge tests, business practice notes, and the structural behaviour exam, all to further support development and competency. We have world-class resources to assist candidates in their professional development and for all members with their continuing professional development. However, our resources are only effective if we deliver them to the people that need them. So, my first challenge to the institution is to therefore re-look at how it communicates its portfolio of products to academic institutions, to employers, and to individuals. There is always more that we can do. Site experience. We need early career structural engineers to visit construction sites far more often and to inspect the works they have designed. We all learn so much from seeing the physical fruition of our designs, talking to the site operatives building it as well as the site managers. Nothing guides future design decisions more than some good, honest feedback from the men and women actually building or constructing it. Now, having received good, honest feedback in some of my younger times, it can come with colourful language and rather unrepeatable ways of how you could improve, but it's beneficial, it's really helpful. So, and I think we have to really consider things like a reinforced concrete drawing and accompanying bar bending schedule. If we just bear that in mind for a moment, it's a world away from the construction on or off-site. Observing a concrete pour should be a must for all engineers and technicians. Drawing or modelling concrete is all about straight lines. The reality is it starts off grey, wet and sloppy. It takes skilled professionals to achieve high-quality finishes that we often specify. Understanding this process aids in ensuring appropriate, effective design assumptions. Returning to structural steel, most fabricators, certainly the ones that I know, are very happy to welcome structural engineers and technicians to their works and show them the process of steel fabrication. It's a win-win. The engineer gains experience and knowledge, and the fabricators realise that this knowledge will make for better engineering in the future. Away from the office experience and exposure to construction processes makes better and more rounded structural engineers. Better structural engineers and technicians design and detail better structures. These have less site problems, less waste, less embodied carbon, and less site queries and mistakes. The result is that the rest of the construction team have a higher respect for the work of the structural engineer. So, my second challenge is for the institution to examine access to gaining site experience and whether the requirements of the IPD core objectives are still sufficient. How can we help in the delivery of site experience? We require it, but it's one of the key elements that the institution is not directly able to deliver. Looking back over my own career, you will see that I referred to key points where the right mentor at the right time facilitated opportunity and progression, whether it be practical support or encouragement and understanding. I firmly believe that mentoring can be immensely powerful, whether you're a student member or an experienced fellow of this institution. Our own experience can be highly valuable to colleagues progressing their career. We're never too young or too old or too experienced to learn new skills. And we should never stop sharing our knowledge with others. And actually, that's what differentiates an institution as a learned society from a commercial training provider. Via our regional group, in particular, we know that there are a lot of informal coaching and mentoring already exists, particularly in supporting our young professionals prepare for their professional review, interview and examination. So, my third challenge is to all our professionally qualified structural engineers. Consider how many times you were mentored along your own journey. Now consider how many engineers you have helped and mentored. Can you do a bit more to help those who are in the early stages of their career? Would you be prepared to mentor people that you don't know yet? We must ensure that there are mentors available for all of our young engineers. So, my fourth challenge, and I do apologise, there's lots of challenges here. My fourth challenge is related and is addressed to encourage the council of our institution to discuss whether the timing is right for the institution to support informal mentoring via a more formally supported scheme, with introductions and guidance provided by HQ. I now want to talk about influence within the profession, both as individuals and as an institution. As structural engineers, we have a unique societal position from which to influence the built environment, and with it comes the responsibility to ensure that we lead in areas of safety, climate action, and the quality of service that we provide to our clients. Looking back on my own career within the UK construction industry, I reflect on the many challenges that structural engineers have already successfully navigated. One such challenge was the downward real terms pressure on professional consultant fees over many years, along with the rise in popularity of design and build contracts, which inevitably led to the splitting of design responsibility between consultants, contractors, and specialist suppliers. The division of this responsibility brought with it risks related to interfaces between separate, siloed designers. One example of such potential risk lies with the design of structural steel frames, for which the connection designs are now routinely passed over to the steel subcontractors. This regularly includes highly complex junctions and moment connections that are fundamental to the performance of the overall structure. Now, for experienced structural engineers, this is not necessarily a problem. However, too often, I become aware of or hear disturbing instances where structural steel frames have been designed before there is full consideration of how they will be physically connected. The result of this separation between designers has, in many instances, added more cost, waste, confusion, and delay in getting projects built. Ultimately, issues like this have the potential to damage the standing and reputation of structural engineers. Conversely, when structural engineers design structures with full consideration for all aspects needed to realise the construction, and with positive and proactive interaction between all of the specialist designers, the resulting smooth process of construction raises the respect and profile of the whole profession. Structural engineers have a well-developed and tested talent for solving problems and finding solutions. As individuals, we can bring this experience into all aspects of the projects in which we are engaged, leading on quality and professionalism, and not just our engineering. We can raise the value that we bring to clients and other members of the design team. Mentoring early career engineers in effective communication and proactive engagement with project meetings and discussions with other members of the team is a positive way to ensure the continued high value that is bestowed upon structural engineers within the wider construction industry. I also raised two other hugely important topic areas where justifiably the profession can say it's making a difference and adding value: safety and climate action. So let's talk a little bit about safety. Earlier in my talk, I referred to my work in offshore oil and gas sector and the differences that I perceive with regard to attitudes towards health and safety in construction. Now, as an engineers, we inherently design safety into all our structural solutions, and we design out risks wherever we can. Looking back, it is very clear that the UK construction industry has made impressive leaps forward in terms of safety during the span of my career. Dame Judith Hackett's review post-Grenfell criticised the culture of safety performance in our sector. And whilst there may have been progress in many aspects since that terrible fire, I still question the attitude of many construction personnel on building sites, which is not commonly conducive to a totally safe environment. Intervention is a vital tool in stopping accidents or incidents before they occur. And from my personal experiences within the offshore oil and gas and the nuclear industry, it is commonplace to have clear written policies on intervention, which are fully backed up by a top-down driven culture and respected by all. UK construction industry still has an inherently aggressive and confrontational nature within building projects. And safety interventions can be viewed by some as a threat or unwanted interference. It can therefore be met with rude or passive-aggressive responses. But ultimately, none of us want people to get hurt. You know, that's the underlying point here. So, until the whole of the industry accepts that safety is for the benefit of all, and interventions are actually part of keeping our colleagues and the public safe, we will not clear this hurdle. We still have lessons to learn, in my opinion, from the oil and gas sector, and we must become better at actively and respectively intervening wherever needed. We must encourage our partners within construction, particularly contractors, to strive with us to change attitudes to solve this problem. If we as a profession and as a wider industry can change our attitudes to interventions, the built environment will be even safer, leveraging the gains that we have already made. So, sharing and learning lessons from structural safety lies at the heart of the CROSS, which is Collaborative Reporting for Safer Structures scheme, with which this institution has been closely involved for many years, along with our colleagues at the Institution of Civil Engineers. Preventing future failures by providing insight into how safety issues occur and spurring the development of safety improving measures is a fundamental element of our work. Thanks to the financial support of the UK government, CROSS now incorporates fire safety reporting, and we've been pleased to collaborate closely with the Institution of Fire Engineers in this activity. The ethos of learning from confidential reporting is one that stretches across construction activities, and we're actively working with the Institution of Civil Engineers to see how CROSS can be expanded across the infrastructure professions. Thanks to the global reach of this institution, CROSS has also now been expanded into CROSS Australia and CROSS USA. In 2019, this institution placed climate action on a par with its traditional emphasis on structural safety. Our responsibilities as a profession for imaginatively and urgently tackling embodied carbon in structural design is without doubt one of the major challenges of our time. The information, tools, knowledge, and CPD resources generated by the institution are incredible. Please use them. Now, more than at any time in our past, we must all be acutely aware of the finite resources that we're using. We need to ensure that we are considering restoration and renovation in favour of demolition and rebuilding. When we do design new buildings and structures, we must design efficiently and effectively. As competent structural engineers, we need to ensure that our designs minimise waste. Beyond our own actions, we need help. We're working collaboratively in the creation of new industry standards, as well as stimulating discussion at UK government about the role regulation must play in accelerating the way we modify habits and behaviours. Working in this policy area is so vitally important if we are to use the skills of the profession to influence the benefit of society. The climate emergency is not, of course, limited to the UK, and we are mindful of the institution's international reach, with members in over 120 countries. There is no one-size-fits-all, and we are acutely aware that the challenges facing structural engineers will differ according to the regime in which they live and work. Nonetheless, the institution is making provision of many of its learning materials freely available to support the profession wherever they are based. With it, our e-library is well sourced with material, and our humanitarian development panel contributing many valuable insights into levelling up the international imbalance relating to climate poverty. So, you'll be pleased to hear we're getting to the conclusions. In concluding my inaugural address, I summarise and draw together the threads of my key messages. My route into the profession was not typical. I've reflected on the routes many of our future members may take to embark upon a career in structural engineering and the reasons why this is so important. It takes the institution on an equally challenging journey, since the needs of members will be increasingly diverse, which will require us to be fleet of foot and imaginative in providing support in many more ways. I raised 4 specific challenges in how we might enhance the way in which the institution rises to the needs of its communities. Firstly, to reconsider how it communicates its first-class portfolio of products and learning opportunities to academics, to employers, and to individuals. Secondly, to consider whether the institution should do more to support site experience of its younger members. Thirdly, my call to all members to consider what time they will make available to mentor others. And fourthly, my challenge to Council to consider whether the time is now right for the institution to develop a formalised mentoring scheme. Summing up, I then considered safety and climate action under the umbrella of influence. But beyond influence, I do think that in themselves, these 2 topics are immensely vibrant magnets to enthuse young people to want to join the structural engineering profession. And finally, as a closing thought, I would like to thank David Allen, Malcolm Hale, and Brian Jones. As the partners of Hale Allen Jones back in 1989, they saw some potential and took a punt on a 19-year-old Norfolk boy with no construction experience, no technical drawing experience, but a willingness to learn. Thank you. Without these individuals, I could not be a structural engineer today. Now, before I finish, and much to his embarrassment, I would like to just note that our long-standing CEO, Martin Powell, is leaving us a little bit later this year. And I'd just like to take a few moments to acknowledge Martin. And I'm not going to list all his achievements. I'm really not. So don't worry, Martin. But over his tenure, he's collaboratively, I should use smaller words when I'm doing presentations, worked with our membership and staff to modernise our institution, while supporting the creation of an inclusive culture in what we say, what we do, and how we conduct our affairs. Actually, the building we're standing in, Martin led the acquisition, development and transfer from Upper Belgrave Street into our current HQ in Bastwick Street, and in doing so helped place this institution in a fine and strong financial position. So as one chapter closes, another one begins, and we're fortunate that with much thanks to Martin, our institution is in good health, and we look forward to embarking on the next chapter in our long history. And that is it.